Hi, everyone, and welcome to Career Accelerator. We're going to be talking about cover letters. What is a strong cover letter? When I work with a lot of students, they're unsure of, how the cover letter really kind of comes into play. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Your cover letter is going to start off with an introduction, and that could be one of the most important parts of the cover letter. Are there any contacts that you know at the company? Have you had any interactions with the company that might be of relevance? And the body paragraphs can be some of the trickiest pieces to write, and we're going to cover that. It's making connections. So pulling out skills that are sought after from that job or internship description, and then pulling in an example in writing to exemplify that you do have that skill. And then it ends with a conclusion. But this can really make or break your candidacy. A well-written letter can only really help you, and a not so great written letter is not going to help you at all and can in fact hurt you. These are some of the points that we're going to be talking about. First off, do companies really even look at cover letters? Well, if you really were to break it down, perhaps a third of employers, recruiters, when they get your application, maybe a third of them scroll through it, scan through it really pretty quickly. Maybe another third read it over pretty carefully, and then another third don't read it at all. So when you look at those odds, about 2/3 of employers are reading it to some capacity. So your letter still needs to be pretty well written. If a cover letter is optional, should you be sending it? It depends. It depends on if you have something very compelling to say, you have examples that you can pull in to show off those skills that they're looking for that could really help you. You want to talk about why you're interested in the company. You've made some contacts, you've made some connections, and also want to bring that into visibility for the employer. It can be really helpful. On the other hand, if a cover letter is optional and you are not as confident about your writing skills, it's okay to not send it. If a job requires a cover letter, that's something that you'll find right on Handshake. So when you're applying to something in on-campus recruiting or non-on-campus recruiting, it will be right up in front when you go to apply the position if there's a drop-down menu for cover letter or not. And that last question, can my cover letter basically be the same for every company? The short answer is no, and we're going to talk a little bit more why. Here's some of the do's and don'ts. Some of the do's include customize that letter to the company, definitely tailor it. And that tailoring can be done by doing some research on the organization and the company and the industry. Talk with current employees, sourcing them through LinkedIn or the Eagle Exchange, and ask them, in their opinion, what's important for that company, and you can bring it into play in your letter. Definitely use proper grammar and spelling. That goes without saying, but read it over and over. And make sure when you are doing the cover letter as an attachment that the subject line of your email makes reference to the exact title of the job or the internship that you're applying to. What are some of the don'ts? Well, don't ramble, get right to the point. It's good to be specific, but yet brief at the same time. You don't want to just reiterate your resume. So when you get into the body paragraphs, you want to be careful of using the same verbiage from your resume. Add in a little more contextual information. That's some of the points with the cover letter. And you want to be careful, especially if it's an internship, about focusing too much on what that internship can do for you and your career. The employer knows that. That's why the internship exists in the first place. So you want to focus in on what you bring to the table. Do be careful. It's very, very natural to want to have phrases in your cover letter that use "I believe" or "allowed me to." It's a little bit more passive language and a little bit of extra wording that you don't really need. You make a much more impactful statement if you talk just right to exactly the skill and the project that you're working on. Let's talk a little bit more about formatting. It is a formal business letter, which may feel pretty archaic to you, but the format hasn't changed. Even though this letter is not going the postal mail, it still has a postal address for yourself and the company in which it's going to. You do want to keep it under a page, and it does have a salutation. Dear Ms., Dear Mr., or if you don't have a name, Dear Hiring Manager. If you do have a name and you're unsure, it's a name that can be addressed by either gender. Do a little bit of searching on LinkedIn and see if you can determine who the person is. Overall, the goal of a cover letter is to get an interview. It's a persuasive letter. It can really tip the scale in your favor, and tipping the scale in the favor of wanting them to get to know you better and wanting to bring you in for an interview or a virtual interview that you are worth learning more and getting to know as a candidate. On the other hand, however, a letter that you don't spend too much time doing, you don't tailor, recruiters know, they can spot it a mile away that you're putting out there the message, I'm not interested, I really don't care, I didn't put the time and energy into that company's letter. And that's not going to help you land that interview. Let's talk a little bit more about paragraph 1. So what goes into paragraph 1? You're going to include information on why you're writing, so the exact title of the job or internship that you are applying to. That's very important. If there are any mutual contacts, so if you happen to know someone at that company with their permission, make sure to mention them, reference their title, all that kind of good stuff. If you've had any interactions with the company, you met the company through a virtual event or a past in-person event, internship fair, career fair, maybe they were a guest speaker at a particular class you were in, bring that into play. And make sure that you're also talking about why you're interested in this company and this job. And it's good to be specific as much as you can. And that's where your research can come in handy and help you really craft an authentic reason as to why you're interested in that organization. Openers are critical. As much as possible, you try to make it unique. Here's a couple of examples. The first one starts off with a friend who has interned at the organization. That can draw them right in. Maybe you talk about some past work that you've done in internships or research with a professor, or maybe, as the third example shows, an on-campus organization or work that you do for a department on campus in a leadership role. All of these are ways to really try to connect the dots, draw in the employer, and essentially get them to want to read more of your letter. Or even if they're scanning it pretty quickly, get them to slow down and really read it over. Here's an example of a strong first paragraph. As you can see, it's kind of that antiquated address up at the top. And then make sure that you proofread. So it's not uncommon error to have a template cover letter that you're using and forget to change up the company or forget to change up the person that you are addressing the letter to, as this example shows. This person references having met some BC alumni that work for this company. That can be a great thing to do. Here's another example. This is a very creative, strong first paragraph. This is a person who's applying to a program with GE. They have a fascination for airplanes and aviation, which is very important to them. And they bring that into that first paragraph. So sometimes, you can really employ some creative things with it. Here's another example of a strong first paragraph that's very compelling. Someone who's interested in marketing, and they're pulling together how that thread of interest in marketing began. And it becomes very effective. They talk about something that they do on campus at Boston College as a research assistant. And then, they tied in working to the angle of why they're interested in that particular program in which they are applying. Paragraphs 2 and 3. So we've got the intro down. Now there are 2 body paragraphs. These can be tricky to write, but once you get some examples going, once you have an understanding of how it works, the flow will help you out. And you can save paragraphs that you write in the past and hold on to them. examples that you've crafted that are well written, and you can always tweak those examples to fit future employers. So you want to start off by talking what you can offer the employer. Again, it's what you can offer rather than what you can get out of the internship. So you want to really connect the dots. I can't, emphasize that enough. You're trying to make a connection between what the employer is seeking, their needs, and your abilities, your talents, your skills. And you're bringing in an example. And you want to kind of keep it to the point. So rather than getting into a laundry list of every leadership thing that you've done, or a laundry list of every possible example that could fit communication skills and just reiterating your resume, try to pick out one example to fit that skill for paragraph 2. And then for paragraph 3, the second body paragraph, you might pick out something different from the skills that the employer is looking for, and then talk to that. Thinking through the STAR method. So employing the STAR method, bringing in the situation, task, action, result. So what's the background of the project or the task? What did you do to solve that problem or project? What was the action that you took? And then what happened as a result? Or what were the intended results? So you really want to beef up those examples. And again, as you write them, you're going to find yourself writing the paragraph, reviewing the paragraph, editing it, and then going back through and editing the letter a second time over. So editing can be really, really important. So how do you really do this? If we were to kind of take an example, here's a posting. You can see what they are looking for. They're looking for everything from mathematical skills, analytical skills. They're looking for someone who has strong initiative, energetic work habits. So you can kind of see a long list of things that they're looking for, both between technical skills and soft skills. So your next step is then to figure out, okay, what can I kind of hit up from each category? Is there more of a technical skill, an analytical skill, more of a hard skill that I could hit up? And then what's a soft skill that I can speak to as well? So the second paragraph, that body paragraph, the first of the 2 body paragraphs, pick out an example. Okay, so if the person were to then focus in on strong organizational skills, experience working on projects, ability to prioritize and manage tasks efficiently. So those are things that can all go together, skills that can go together, especially when you utilize the STAR method. Those skills will all kind of flow from sentence to sentence, and you can easily demonstrate all of those with one example. So here's an example where someone pulled in talking about being involved with 3 different classes, as well as having to coordinate a big winter program for the music group that they're involved in. So you can see the wording goes as such. The end of last semester provided me with a chance to succeed at a significant challenge to my organizational abilities. I was the publicity chair for my instrumental group, Boston College String Quartet's Winter Concert, which is also our biggest event of the year. While we are a very small group, the work needed is no less. I was responsible for ensuring a successful turnout. Additionally, 3 of my courses culminated in significant group projects. These were all happening concurrently over a few weeks, so successful completion required a strict adherence to a rigorous schedule and game plan. And you can read further that they give a little bit on the results in having a great attendance for that show. Then the person could pull in communication skills. So here's a quick example of that. And they're talking about the role that they do in the Cadogan Alumni Center. And that's easy to talk about communication skills. Talking with alumni, cold calling over the phone, and having to communicate with alumni of various ages too as well. While at the same time, persuading, negotiating with them, and building rapport. A lot of good skills that you can hit upon with that. Then with the third paragraph, here is another idea. The posting was looking for written, verbal communication skills, the ability to present information clearly and succinctly. Okay, how can that be done with an example? Thinking through this, well, perhaps a student is a major in marketing, with a minor in history. So how do the two work together? Well, development of communication skills in addition to involvement. So now the student is bringing in what they do on campus between on-campus culture groups, dance organizations, and their involvement in music guild in a leadership role in creating and editing newsletter content. So there's the verbal and the written communication skills. In addition, with Music Guild, the student is booking individual practice space, coordinating that effort, which then ties in well with the explanation skills and trying to present information clearly and succinctly to individuals of all levels. So this fits really nicely. There are a lot of things that the person can pull off of and demonstrate. The final paragraph is a conclusion. With that, you want to end with a wrap-up sentence that may tie all your skills together. The sentence or two. You're going to thank them for their consideration, that you plan to follow up. Essentially, it's a very short and sweet final paragraph. Here's an example of that. Based on my skills developed through my finance major and my experience with CAB, I'm a strong fit for the internship. I hope to have the opportunity to interview with you to explain why I would be a great fit for this position. Thank you for consideration and best of luck with your fall recruiting season. So it's pretty short and sweet. Here's another quick example. They are thanking the employer for their time and that they are essentially excited about the opportunity and look forward to hearing from you soon. So it can be something very, very short and sweet. So with that, I hope that you reach out to your instructor for Accelerator. If you have any questions on our website, you can also find great examples of cover letters. You can find examples of other creative openers for cover letters. And of course, we're always available virtually to talk through a letter that you might have, both between us, the career advising team, and CSUM, and the peer advisor staff. Thank you.